All right. Okay. So now you get to meet Peggy Gilmer. And what we're going to do. So Peggy is a coach to startups, to executives, to NASA and Fortune 500 companies. Peggy is this coach extraordinaire, and she has a fun attitude and really, thinks out of the box, which is what I love about her. I met Peggy through Michelle Wang, who started a company called Sagely, which is like business advisors on demand. And Michelle will be a speaker in probably another month. But what Peggy, she has a love of people and companies and horses. And she has just a wonderful depth of experience. And I really like how she thinks about things generationally and just, how to, especially the topic today, how to see if this company is a fit. And so many people, in fact, I've talked to many over the last couple of weeks, they started a company and it wasn't a fit. And then they're, back on the hunt. And so hopefully Peggy's insights will give you a little bit more to go on as far as making a decision, so you don't step into something that you want to step out of. So Peggy, I am going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Good. All right.
Yes.
So I'm going to hit share screen and let's find this puppy.
And then while you're doing that, if you have questions, put them in the chat and we'll manage it that way. And then when Peggy's done with the presentation, then we'll take care of all these questions. And based on what people have contacted me about, I think there's going to be some questions, Peggy.
Yeah, happy to answer them either after the session, or you can always contact me afterwards. So I got excited about this topic because I've been coaching startups for the last 5 years, and I've coached I counted them up yesterday, 208 of them. And they are a fascinating group. And for somebody at my stage of career to be working with people at the entry stage of their career and seeing the aliveness, the passion, the brilliance, the world-changing ideas that they have, it keeps me young and gives me incredible hope for the future. So I'm happy to give you this little slant and my view of startups and what it's like to work with them. All right. Let's see here. There's just a blurb about me. I think the only thing that's really interesting about it is the last two, because this is the way startups talk about themselves. It's not just their vita or their resume, like, who am I? I have a very structured brain that sees things in structures. It's very useful for people, but I'm also highly intuitive and very empathic, which really helps me with coaching. And I'm old. I'm long on wisdom and discernment, but don't ask me about current apps. That's what my clients do in that regard. So I want to tell you a little bit about high-tech startups. I will give you this presentation at the end, so you'll have it. Most of my work comes through Techstars. If you don't know who they are, they're a good company to know. It's a global consortium of accelerators all around the world. They're independent pods, and they run people through a 12-week accelerator program. They give them seed money. These startup companies, they give them seed money, and then they give them an MBA in how to launch a business in 12 weeks. It is a pressure cooker. It's amazing that anybody lives through it, but it's a fascinating field to be in. So these companies range from postpartum depression for Black women to preventing collisions in space. The one I just spoke to in Africa and worked with is developing a common platform so anybody from around the world can come in and hire citizens from 38 countries in Africa who all have different monetary systems, different government regulations, different HR requirements, and they're creating a platform to make Black people in Africa more hireable around the globe. So they're doing fascinating things. Things you want to know about them is their intention is to go fast, go hard, to build the company, to scale it really fast, and to sell it within 3 to 5 years. They're very, very aggressive and single-minded in that. The other thing that's fun, most of them are in their 30s, some as ancient as 50, but many of them are still using their college emails and can be their first job. So you can imagine, you know, that what it's like to work with this kind of a marketplace. I can't even describe to you the diversity that they are. I mean, I've worked with teams that were Russians and Ukrainians were working together while the war was going on. Age doesn't matter, sex doesn't matter. They just want to get in and play. And if you add value, great. They're just thrilled with it. I mean, I'm old enough to be many of their grandmothers, you know, their grandmother. They don't care. I'm useful. That's just fine with them. So it's a remarkable play in that regard. Complexity. It is boggling. They're taking on, one of my clients is creating a telehealth system so the medics don't have to go out on 911 calls except where it's absolutely essential. So they're figuring a whole way to do emergency medicine. They're taking on space, environment, multinational banking systems. Their apps weave, now think about this, not only are they doing all this cutting edge stuff, their apps, their software, their hardware are weaving into old established networks, human systems, social systems, government systems, old program systems, government systems written in COBOL in the 50s, 60s, 70s. They're plugging this high tech stuff in, both in the real world and other worlds. They're dealing in AI, they're dealing in crypto. So it's just extraordinary, the kinds of world that they're living in and the level of complexity that they hold in their heads so gracefully. They're moving fast. They just, in fact, often they're moving too fast. And as a coach, you can come in and go, whoa, slow your roll, guys. You know, you need to finish your sentences, you know, those kinds of things. It's really important to appreciate that and maybe even help with it a little bit. Another piece of it that's really interesting is they have a lot of partial employees. They come in as contractors. They have fractional C-suite officers, fractional CFOs, fractional CTOs, and people are giving a fraction of their attention to their company. They have volunteers. They have interns. So it's fat. You know, they're very creative in how they can staff, you know, with little money and get the wisdom and the intelligence that they need. There's a downside to it. They've got, you know, if somebody's a fractional this, they've got divided attention, divided interest, divided motivations, complexity, one more time. And the other thing that I found absolutely fascinating is co-founders often have very deep relationships with each other. I've worked with father-daughters, ex-wives and ex-husbands, ex-lovers, college fraternity brothers, sisters. It's astounding, the relationship. And that brings another kind of complexity because you bring that personal relationship to work. So if you have issues in your personal relationship, you bring them right on into work. So there's a good news and a bad news about these depth relationships, but it's never boring. Okay. Okay. Here's what, you know, being old myself, I have watched this evolution of culture since, well, when did I go to work? I went to work in the 60s. And here's just a generalization of it from pre-boomer to Gen Z. Pre-boomer, those days in cultures, we had rigid roles. You knew what your job was. It was well-defined. You went in and did it. There was hierarchy. I worked at Boeing for 18 years. I watched a president of Boeing taking the company down the tubes with the very bad strategy. And I asked his chief financial officer, why are you letting him do this? And his answer was, I can read an org chart. That's the way life worked back then. It was command and control, one-way communications around behavior. You're not doing right. No two-way back to the boss, even limited two-way communications around work itself. We showed up at work professional. This was my professional self. I put on a new suit. I went to work. Who I was inside was often kept quite hidden. Leadership was from in front, and we followed behind. It was pretty clear how to show up and play in that world. Now we come over, march right ahead to the 2020s, and Gen Z start in work and starting to lead in some cases. They're very different critters. They're egalitarian by nature. Some are. This is not a plastic, we've shifted from here to here. The message here is that you're going to see in these startup companies cultures that could still be here and cultures that could be here. So what we see in Gen Z, though, is they're very egalitarian by nature. They want to play well with others. They really want you to like working with them. They want the workplace to work for you. They want it to work for everybody. They are collaborative, sometimes to a fault. They'll collaborate too long. One of the biggest things I coach on is who's going to actually make the decision? Who's going to break the tie? So it's a very different coaching dynamic than it was when I started over here. They're very open and they're very willing to be vulnerable. It is not atypical for a first conversation with a client here to go, I've got these triggers. I always get reactive when somebody does this, and I just hate it. How can I get better? Or they'll walk in and say, I have ADHD, and can you help me work with that? They're very open, very vulnerable, willing to be vulnerable, and they own up to who they are and who they're not. And in it, they always want to get better. I rarely find one that just goes, I am who I am, shut up, leave me alone. They're always looking to be better. They're very highly self-aware. They're psychologically sophisticated in that regard. Very purpose-driven. They don't want a job, they want a purpose. They want people who want a purpose, not people who just want a job. There's a new trend I'm seeing with these leaders is they lead from center. That they will sit in the center and they will have they'll be very clear about vision. They'll be very clear about structure, about getting alignment. And then they literally like watch the dashboard and see how the team is doing and only tune where it's needed rather than the more heroic leadership that we used to see in the drive from in front kind of way. And most importantly, they are authentic. They tell you who they are. And they tell you what they like, they tell you what they don't like, and you need to be prepared to hear it. Okay, so I put this down the middle. This is just a taxonomy of leadership styles that we can see in business. It's one of many. It's just an easy one to put in here. And my point here is that you can find a culture or a leadership style today anywhere from punitive, this way taken to painful, authoritarian, still benevolent, still I'm the boss, you do what I'm say, but I'll be nice about it, to, okay, I'm willing to listen to people, but I'm going to make the decision, to let's make it together, to I'm turning you loose, you go run it and, come back to me when you're done. And the interesting about this is the pre-boomers tended to live down here, and that worked sometimes, didn't work all the time. The younger generations tend to want to work up here. That doesn't work all the time. It's just, there is no magic culture. It's, you've got to fit your leadership to the needs of the people in your company. And it's the biggest thing I coach for today is learning to flex your leadership style to the needs of the people in front of you. So when you go to interview with these people, you really want to discover where are they on this continuum and how well is it working for them. Okay. Yeah, my catchphrase is here. People who stood up here, and I have a customer that does that, a client that does that right now, and he goes, "They're grown-ups, leave them alone." Well, in this case, they weren't. They were running around like cats. They were not aligned. They were doing their own thing, and he gave them too much power. I've got one down here who runs this way, and he goes, "They're children. I have to control them." Well, he's demoralized them. He's made them impotent to do things, and they're not getting it. So the thing to watch is, what is the nature of the culture and how well is it working? And then the third question to ask is, and will it work for me? Can I fit into the culture when you get there? Okay. Okay. So, so here's the imperatives to think about. When you're going in and you want to work in a startup or you want to engage with a startup, it's really important to know yourself and to be able to articulate who you are authentically. And when we get to these slides here in a little bit that I gave you a handout, I'll give you some ways and language to do that. But it's extremely important to get, this is who I am. This is how I work. This is how I like to work. Because they will tell you from their side as cleanly and clearly as they can. They're looking for your authenticity. They're not looking for a spiel. So that's going to be one of the biggest things you're gauged on is, can I trust this person because they showed up authentically? And then the next one, just like I've been trying to posit these dimensions of them, is you need to seek to understand them. Because they're very diverse, they're very different than what some of us may have grown up in, and they can be along that continuum, anywhere along it. So you need to get really good at asking the questions that you need answers to. And we'll get into it more, but it's like, if you're talking with the person who's going to be your boss or your colleague, what's their management style? How do they collaborate? In the business, what's their culture? And we'll get into details on this, but you really want to know this stuff because it's all over the map today. And the goal, that I came to help with is help you find the right job, not just a job in that regard. Okay, so this, now we're into your slides. This is from an instrument that I use with all my clients. It's called the IMAP. And I've been using it for 30 years. I've used most of the instruments on the market. And this one for me is head and shoulders above any of them because it gives me so much information. I can begin coaching an individual or a team immediately when I get this results and go through it with them. One, because it gives me 4 dimensions on them. What are their passions? What are their strengths? What do they need from others, i.e. what kind of culture do they want to work in, create, and what are they liable to do under stress? Huge database immediately in front of us. And then this instrument, we can put it together and I can look at a whole team. So I can see similarities, I can see differences, I can see where people are going to butt heads, where they might not be thinking about certain aspects of the work because they don't care about it. So I love this instrument, and I thought I'd give you an insight into it by letting you kind of guess where you fell in it, and use that to start looking for how would you question a potential client. So here's the genius of this instrument. What it's based on is that the principle is, if you're doing things that you love to do, I'm passionate about, and I'm working in an environment that meets my needs, people behave in ways that make me feel good and I'm comfortable working there, the culture works for me, then I'm liable to give my best behaviors. I can come from strength. I'm in my zone is really the best way to look at it. If one or both of these are off, then we tend to go to stress. We tend to get reactive, and those are never pretty. they're never productive, and they hurt not only me when I'm in them, but my teammates there. So we can come up with ways to recognize and get out of those when they're there. So that's the essence of the instrument. Oops. That's so funny. So here's, time is so short today, but I really wanted to give you a chance. Just, you've got your hand out, just very quickly go through here and check the things that you go, I love this. I love working on project management. I love doing metrics. I love visioning. Just get the high spots really fast, and then I'll tell you a little bit about it. You can go back later and get more discreet about it and use it more intimately. But right now, I just want you to get a sense of it. Just check the things that you love, not necessarily good at, but you love. Okay, so were you to take the test, you'd actually end up with your P in someplace in these 4 boxes. And what it would tell you, if it was very dramatically up here, it would say, well, you're really high on green. If it's in the center, it means you're probably pulling from all these quadrants. If it's close to a line, you're pulling from 2 of them. But we'll just take it as its most central, simple place. In around passions, people whose passions fall in blue are the deep thinkers, the artists, the designers, the architects, and they really want to get the aim just right, the product just right, the UI, UX just beautiful and gorgeous, the product roadmap absolutely gorgeous. They're artists in and of themselves. They're deep thinkers. They want time to do things. Across the road from them are the people who are very practical, pragmatic, get your hands on it, get it built, get it out the door, get it working, go, and go fast. So you're starting to see we got different kinds of talents, different kinds of love here, and different kinds of needs when we get to needs. Green, what green loves to do is loves people. I will bet you that both Christy and Cindy are going to be green. If we take the instrument, they're green. They love people. They love influencing people, getting out, bringing people together. Let's all go here. Don't this be fun? They're great at sales. They're great at coaching. They like developing people, customer support. They're very dynamic. They can change their mind on a fly. The situation turns, they can turn and move with it. And then yellow, the opposite of green is yellow in terms of love. They like to focus. They like detail. They like planning. They like metrics. They like making sure the trains run on time and things work really well. So you're starting to see why all 4 colors might be important to a company. No one's necessarily better than the other, but all are essential. All right. So knowing what you love to do is really important to make sure that the job you're going for allows you to do it. Number 1. Number 2, the thing we know is that if you're really green, just for example, and you get in a job and this is what they want from you, you will wilt on the vine. You know, doing things that you don't love to do drains your energy. And so you want to stay in the world where you get to do things that you love to do, that gives you energy and boosts your energy. A lot of my coaching today is about manage your energy, not your time, because that's the scarcest resource, is working at a high energy pace. All right. All right. So first thing to look at for you is, will the job let you do what you love to do? All right. Then, why don't you come back here? So this is just, you can use this as an instruction sheet when you go back and do look at these things more detailed. I just realized we wouldn't have enough time to do these in depth. So let's move on to strengths. Same thing, go through there and just check off the things that you know you do really well. This isn't not whether you love to do it or not. I'm good at this. I'm really good at this. check them off. So I know you probably need more time, and that's why I'm going to give you these to actually dive into later. But now let's look at this, and let's say, remembering that red and blue are opposites, green and yellow are opposites. So you look at green, and it's really good at, these are the kind of people that can go in with 100-page PowerPoint presentation prepared to give it to a client, and 3 slides in go, this isn't working, client's not resonating. They can chuck the whole presentation and wing it from there on out. They can start down building a product, get 80% done and go, nope, not it. And they will chuck it and move and go do something else. They're very responsive to the environment, very responsive to the needs of the moment. They don't like a lot of discipline. They don't like having their feet nailed to the floor. Don't make me follow your process. Don't give me your stupid KPIs and your dashboard. I know how to do things. I'm going to figure it out myself and do it that way. Is one better than the other? No, they're just different. And if you're this kind of person and you walk into this kind of a company, you're going to have some rough edges. And let's just look at this too. So then you've got, here's your deep thinkers, your deep relationships. These are people that have 2 or 3 friends and they go down to the bone and go back in time, and they love the intimacy of depth relationships, one-on-one meetings, deep thinking, long-term, bringing the future into the present. These people want casual relationships, practically oriented. Let's have a team. Let's go, play basketball. Let's go build this plane, get it out the door. Very practical, goal-focused relationships, easy, friendly, but get things done. They go for speed. Diametrically opposed. I need an answer today. I need a week to think about it, kind of things. So when you go to look at a culture or talk with a prospective boss, you want to appreciate these differences. You want to find where they exist, and you want to appreciate them. Should you avoid them? No. There's pros and cons in both. People who are similar, cultures who are similar, easy to work in. We're all just alike. We all come in, we work together. It's just great. Maybe have profound blind spots. These people tend to pivot too much in a startup. We'll just change our mind. We'll just recode it. We'll go on a different market segment. These people go so fast that sometimes they miss things. They miss things a lot, or they don't take time to think it through. These people can think so long that they never get anything on paper or get it built. And these people can get so rigid about following a process that they cut off creativity and joy and expansiveness. But you put them together, and if flexibility will allow just a little structure to help it stay in the guardrails, if speed will allow aim to clarify what we're doing and get it a little more accurate and a little right, then they'll be able to go fast with direction. We call it momentum. So appreciating the differences and leveraging them, to me, is genius. And these startups are getting very good at seeing this and doing this and appreciating the differences rather than just being irritated by them. but it's really important to know, who you are and how you work so that you can articulate it to others and see how it fits with them in that regard. Okay. Again, I put together a question set. Why doesn't it want to move? Hold on. Whoop, there we go. So you can use that if you want to go into more depth on your strengths. This one I think is just fascinating because this one started out as a chart to show us how I want to be treated by others. How we behave is often different than how we want to be treated. For instance, when you get deeper into this instrument, there's a component that we look at called relationships. And one of the things is how you relate to people. And like, I'm a very direct speaker. This is what I think. This is what I want. This is what I think you should do. I'm very, very direct in my style of coaching and my style of being. However, when you're talking to me, please make sure you do it nicely because my feelings could be hurt pretty easily. And you wouldn't get that necessarily from how I speak. So it's really important to look at, this is how I am, this is what I need. And this page tells us a lot about what you may need. I use it with my startups to help them see actually the kind of culture that they want to build. They may not have even thought about it yet, but meeting expectations is what a culture is about. So take a moment and check off those things that are important to you in the way that you want to be treated, or that you want the culture of any company you go to work for to behave. Okay, I'm sure not enough time, but this I think is one of the most important lenses to look at a prospective fit through, because this is how you want to be treated. This is the culture in which you want to work. And this is a really good way to start to assess fit. People whose expectations fall in this realm, these are the kinds of things they want. They're about action. They want to move and keep moving and get things done. Telling them to wait while you think is an anathema to them. It's just the most frustrating thing in the world. These are the people that when they go to stress, start to embody that terrible cartoon of the two vultures sitting on a branch, looking down, going, patience, my ass, I'm just going to kill something. That's these people they just have to keep it in motion. They want an environment that's moving and moving fast. On the other side, these are, I want depth of relationship. I want depth of thought. I want time to make a decision. I want to be able to see the whole thing. And time is the big thing for them in getting those things. So again, you could start to see tension between these. What green wants, people that have these kinds of needs and wants, what they want to know is, what's my target? Tell me what you're holding me accountable for. What's my chunk of the business? What are my goals? What am I accountable for? Let's get that really clear. Here's the playing field. Here's my chunk of it. Now get out of my way. I'll go take care of it. Don't micromanage me. Don't tell me how to do it. Just be very clear about what's mine, what I have authority over, and then give me room. Where what yellow wants is, I want to know how we're doing this. I want to know the project plan. I want to know the process. I want to know the KPIs, the OKRs, what's our dashboard. They want things to be fair. They want things to run in a smooth, orderly fashion in that regard. So again, these are just really good language to use to find out what is the culture of the company that you're going towards, and what do you need to be happy in it. And then the question becomes to you is, if it doesn't align perfectly, and probably most won't, can you bend to it? And will you be happy doing it? And if you can, that's great. If you can't, then it's not a good fit. Okay, so I threw in, there's your questions for testing it. I'm not going to do this one, but you can just see the language. This is when we go into reactivity, which we all do. It's really good to have the language to talk about it. What I do with all my teams is, when we get to this chart, is I have each one of them go through and say, okay, what's your favorite reactive behavior? What are one that we're liable to see at work? We've been working together all day. You've gone to stress. What are the behaviors that we're liable to see? And these are what they'll come up with, is something like that. And then we get them talking about, all right, what could your teammates do if they saw that behavior coming up? Especially if you hadn't noticed it yet. But how can your teammates help you in that moment if they see that behavior? And that does two things. One, it opens up vulnerability to the team, which creates intimacy, which creates caring, which creates better, bonding in the team. It also gives everybody a vehicle for helping. So you set a team up with the notion of, I want to help. Here's how, and here's the help I want, and I want to help. So just this one conversation around this topic alone starts to change or pull the culture into one of coherence and caring in that regard. The instrument, when you take it, will actually give you things you can do when you do hit these behaviors, but a little bit more than the 50-minute talk can do for you. I will give you one clue. If you find that, let's say when you go to stress, you look like this. This is kind of, these people, what they look like when they go to stress is like one foot's been nailed to the floor and they're just spinning around that one foot going, but what about this? And I think about this, and what can I do about this? And oh my gosh, like they can't finish their thoughts. They're going so fast. And each one has their own little special behavior. But what to do is, if you go green under stress, let's see, oh dear, it'll take too long to get back. Go to strengths of your opposite. Under stress, you go green, go to the strengths of yellow and do something here. Do something here. That'll pull you out of stress. If you go blue under stress, your feelings are hurt, you've withdrawn, you don't want to play, I'm out of here, this is too painful, I'm gone. Go to red. Do something here. Pick one thing and just go do it. Just go do it. So whatever color you go to stress in, go to the opposite strength, and it will help you generically start to find ways out of stress. Obviously, there's more detail to it, but I thought you'd like to see that one little thing. I'm not going to cover that. I will tell you, just, this is such a cool thing. There's 11 components in this instrument, and 2 of them look at what outcomes. This is how you communicate what you want and how you communicate how you want things done. We concatenate these 2, and I can tell you a whole lot about your leadership style. And that's what's so interesting. And I wanted to give you a chance to do it today, but I don't think we have time, because people with very high scores and outcome, they're your command and control, take charge, make it happen, driving leaders. I have the answer, go do what I think. They're much more balanced than that. I'm being dramatic. But just to give you a sense of it, people with low scores, they're your egalitarian. Let's all get in the sandbox, play well together, and do that. And you can have a score anywhere between 1 and 99. So you can be anywhere along the continuum. I'm just giving you the ends. This is one of my favorite parts of the instrument. And then about structure or process, this is like the green, really responsive, react to the moment, make it up as you go, dynamic, don't need no stinking process. Let's just play it through. People with very high scores, they want the detail, they want the analysis, they want the plan, they want the metrics, they want the dates, they want to go through things in a sustainable, structured manner. Is one better than the other? No. Can they clash? Yes. Can they learn to work together? Yes. But here's one of the most fascinating things of all. If you concatenate your two styles, and you are high on outcome, meaning kind of take charge, command and control, and high on process, you're more of a hands-on kind of leader. Could even be called micromanaging in some cases. Okay. I'm going to tell you what I want to have happen. I'm going to tell you how to do it. If you are low on process and low on outcome, meaning I'm very egalitarian, you just go figure it out, I'll trust you to get it done, you're a very hands-off kind of leader. Very good leadership style some of the time. If you are high on outcomes, I know what I expect of you, but I don't really care how you get it done. You're the kind of leader that gives people a target and then leaves them to figure it out for themselves. And if you're low on outcome, but high on process, you can stay in the weeds, testing the process, changing the process, changing the process. Again, this is one of the things where I start coaching people, is because you've got to have all four of these styles based on where the company is, where your followers are in that regard, and learning to flex your leadership style to the needs of the moment of the audience in front of you is what's critical. So there, I did it anyway. Okay, deep breath. Here we are. So talked a little bit about your passions. Using this instrument, you can characterize your passions. You can characterize your strengths, what your cultural needs are, using the language of work. That's what I love about this instrument. It's in the language of work. All right. We also now know, using both the strengths and the expectations language, you have the qualities for creating questions to ask prospective employers about their management style and the company culture. Now the thing to do is ask the questions, create the questions. That's the hard part, is finding the right question and then finding the courage to ask it. So what I thought we'd do today is, let's just play a little bit of this through and get you started. All right. So just go back to one thing that you saw in either the passion, strengths, or expectations. Probably strengths or expectations would be the easiest. And one thing that's really important to you, just really important to you, and you need to know whether these people will like this, do this, be this, allow you to be this. Just find one quality there that you know this is essential for me. And take a minute now and see if you can frame a question that you would ask a prospective employer to find out whether that was okay with them, that worked in their culture, worked in his style. What question would you ask? You would really ask, it would come out of your mouth. I think we're going to have a few minutes at the end. We'll let you guys, maybe we'll let you guys bring some of them up, because this is the conversation I would love to have. Let's play in these questions, because the questions are the genius, getting to the questions. Okay, so now here's how you can apply some of what we've very quickly gone through and learned about. If you turned up and order and discipline is important to you, i.e. you're falling in yellow quite a bit. Here's a sample. It's a sample question. You want much more. How do you track progress? Yeah. What systems do you use to track progress? Do you have metrics? I mean, it all will fall out of it. Do you have project plans? Do you use process management? Are you using Sprint? You want to find out how they actually work. If you're a deep architect, deep thinker, and relationships are really important to you, i.e. you fall in blue, how do you go about crafting strategy? How do you do long-range planning? How do you brainstorm? How do you get new ideas? How do you resolve conflict? Very important for people with deep relationships. How do you resolve conflict? Okay. If you're red, practical, efficient operations are what's really germane for you. How social is the team? How well do they, get work done together? How well do they sort things out and figure it out? How do you describe productivity on the team? i.e. how fast are they working? How fast do they get stuff done? And if you tend to be green, you like dynamic, high energy, figure it out as you go. How do you collaborate? What does the team do for fun? Start asking this question. And these, I think, are three of the most important questions to always ask and get answers. Ask until you get an answer that you feel comfortable with. What are your values and how are they enforced? I always want to know. A lot of startups don't even have them written down. And so then you want to go, well, what are your values? And get them talking about them. If they don't have a clue what their values are, you have some insight into what you're walking into. All right. And then how are they enforced? You will learn so much about these companies, about where they are in this. They're usually very value driven, but often aren't written down and often don't have team norms yet, which are the behaviors that we expect people to have. If they're a yellow company, they probably already have them written down. If they're red or green, they're probably not written down yet. And if they're blue, they're still thinking about them. So you start to see the personalities in these things as well. When difficult decisions need to be made, how do you go about it? Is it command and control? Is it collaborative? Is it thought through? Is it quick on the fly? You start to get really good answers. And then this one is so huge because most startups don't have a clue about this one. How is performance evaluated? So one of the things I work with as quickly as we can is a very simple, elegant process for evaluating performance and setting people on a development path. One of the biggest things you won't find in a startup is they don't know how to develop people. They're too busy going and doing. They haven't thought about doing. So they tend to criticize behavior rather than figure out how to develop it. And that's a learning edge for almost every single startup is don't think judge, think develop in that regard. So find the questions, find those ones that burn in your heart that you need answers to know that this is a place where you would like to work. And if they're different than you, how will they work with you if you're different? What would they appreciate about you? And figure it out, make agreements about how we navigate our differences. That's what I spend most of my time doing. When the differences come up, I go, okay, how are we going to navigate these? What kind of agreements can you make around these differences? Because the company is better served when you have these balancing perspectives, but that there is respect and appreciation for them so that you can make the most discerning decisions, take the best routes. because you've included the wisdom and the knowledge and the perspective of everyone. So that's what I had to tell you today. I don't know if you're tired, but my voice is getting a little tired. That was
This is great. And we just have a few more minutes, but Christina asked,
But I do
what
have
is
one more
the-
slide. Hang on just one second.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I busted through too. Here's the bottom line. Be authentic. You know, a bad hire can derail a startup. They don't have the luxury of making a bad hire. And I've dealt with so many of them. So let them know who you are. Make them tell you who they are. You really want to fit. And we've talked about this already. There is no ideal relationship. Ask the hard questions. You know, I love working with them, but could I work in one today? No, I could not. So ask yourself the hard question. Can I thrive in this? They're hard. They're obsessed. They work long hours. They're chaotic. There's often disappointment. It is a roller coaster of huge magnitudes. But some speak of it like some people speak of the military. It was the best time of their life. The bonding, the camaraderie, what they created, what they built, who they got to meet. It was the ride of their life in that regard. And there's just, if I can help, I can give you, you can take the IMAP instrument, there is a cost for it. And then if you want coaching on even on how to interview and assess fit, or afterwards, or anytime, this is what I focus on: self-mastery, building your leadership skills, building teams that are robust and work well, and culture. There, that's the last slide. Sorry, Christy.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and take the slides down, and we are out of time, Peggy. But please reach out to Peggy if you have additional questions. And Peggy, this was so beneficial. It's like tying everything together and being able to, I love the success criteria. And then how to deal with stress, go back to your strengths. And I mean, my gosh, these are so practical. I think it's been a wonderful presentation. Great information. Thank you so incredibly much. And we hope you come back and
tell me what I can help with. I'll be happy to.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you in a few weeks, and we'll put out the recording and send out this Peggy's slides to everyone. And looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Enjoy the weekend. Happy President's Day, and stay safe and warm. Bye, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Yes, have a great weekend.
Enjoy, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice weekend.